Hey there, friend. Welcome to the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I am your host, Shannon Warner. This podcast is all about taking a few moments for yourself and reconnecting to the amazing woman behind the title of mom. You have so many plates spinning at any given time between your kids, your partner, your job, maintaining a household, etc., etc. But where does taking time just for you play into that? Let's spend some time together, you and me, right now. We're rebranding a mom moment to those sacred moments you take to fill your cup first. Let's connect, tune in, and tap into what makes us the incredible women that we are. We'll nurture ourselves first so we can be our best selves for those we pour into on a daily basis. We'll also bask in the beautiful wisdom of other moms to learn about the ways in which they've tapped into alignment in their own motherhood journeys. Come on, mama, it's your time. We're having a mom moment. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this week's episode of the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I am your host, Shannon Warner, and it just means so much that you are here listening today. Before we roll into the episode, I want to make sure you're aware if you are preparing a maternity leave, in addition to the 18-page free planning guide, I've also just rolled out a 30-minute workshop on how to budget for and fund your maternity leave, because I believe financial constraints should not be the determining factor in how much leave you get to take to recover and bond with your baby. So the link for both of those are in the show notes. Again, absolutely free for you. I know I say it pretty much every week. And I mean it every week, but I'm really excited to share our guest with you. Fran Medina is a board-certified holistic nurse and empowerment coach with over 43 years of nursing experience in the art and science of health and healing. Fran is the co-founder of The Conscious Connection, a community to expand knowledge, business, and partnerships to increase healing, wellness, and creative art services in the Hudson Valley, New York region. Fran is the host of the podcast, It's Messy, But It's So Good, and she is a certified facilitator of the Insight for Life for Kids and Teens, Creative Clarity Catalyst, and Culture Catalyst programs based on the Stanford University Creativity in Business Master's course. Fran holds certifications in Akashic Record Readings, Tollera Healing, and has training in Emotional Freedom Technique and extensive experience as a Reiki Master Teacher. She truly does it all. I hope you love this episode. Hi, Fran. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Shannon.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I am a nurse. I've been a nurse, a registered nurse for, believe it or not, 43 years.
Wow.
And I would say over 10 years ago, I took a coaching program and I got board certified as a holistic wellness coach. Okay. So I've been working as a coach, as a health coach for a company, which has been amazing because they're very progressive and they allow me to use a lot of holistic modalities such as tapping. I do a lot of stress resiliency teaching because all disease has a stress component.
Yeah.
And just recently I created a podcast. So That's really exciting. This is like my new venture.
Love it.
Out in the world, because we're always kind of reinventing ourselves. I think as we learn more and, grow and we're influenced by people around us. And so passion is my thing.
I love that. I love how you said we're always reinventing ourselves. Like, what a permission slip.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Can you tell us about your motherhood journey?
Absolutely. Very interesting journey that I've had. So when I think in my early 30s, I had an ectopic pregnancy. And I was married, but was not planning on having children at that point. Mm-hmm. And that was incredibly, as you can imagine, stressful. I just finished a 10-mile bike race. Wow. And then I had some spotting and a little bit of pain. And I ended up going to the emergency room and I had to have emergency surgery.
Wow.
When I woke up in my room, I was told by my physician that I had what they call club fimbria. They took out one tube, the other one, he said, you have a very, very small chance of getting pregnant. So I was just absolutely devastated.
Of course.
And although I, at that time, wasn't thinking about getting pregnant or having children, I went on a journey then because I felt like back then it wasn't like it is now where people are having children like into their 40s.
Yeah.
Well, I felt the time bomb ticking, and I went on a journey, an incredible journey, because back then in vitro fertilization was fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
This is back in the 80s. And I actually went through 1.5 treatments unsuccessfully.
Wow.
And I just want to share out there for people who are going through any infertility, my consistency and my vision was very, very strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I joined this group called Resolve, which is an infertility support group. And through that group, synchronistically, there was a woman in the group who told me about a book. And I bought the book, and one of the chapters was by a doctor, Dr. Voros in New Orleans. And he created the microsurgery for the fimbria for fallopian tubes. So I called him up. I called up his office, and they said, send down your records. And I did. And he said, yeah, let's do it. We'll do a laparoscopy. We'll go in, and if we think we can help you, we'll do a laparotomy, which is when they make an incision, and instead of just going in through the belly button. And when I woke up, I put my hand on my tummy and in the hospital, and I felt big bandage, and I was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
So he actually said, you have now, much higher percentage of getting pregnant. And if you don't, come back in 6 months. In other words, call me, not come back to New Orleans. And I did see a doctor in New York, and I ended up getting pregnant 6 months later.
Oh.
And it was so funny because when my son was 5 months old, I was breastfeeding, and my period, started and then stopped. So I did a pregnancy test, and I was pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
So I woke my husband up on the couch, and I said, you're not going to believe it. And he goes, I must be having a nightmare. Only because we had a 5-month-old.
Oh my gosh.
So after that, I said, listen, I think we're done, right? And he goes, yeah. I go, you can have a vasectomy next time. Which he agreed to. And so I went through an incredible journey of, wanting to be a mother. And I just wouldn't give up. And along the way, my husband and I also enrolled in foster care. We enrolled in possibly adoption. So I was open to other avenues, but it's almost like when you go through that, it's so difficult in so many ways. And then when you actually have a child, you cannot believe it. You cannot believe that you were granted this gift. And I think it's really, I don't know. I feel very blessed. I feel very blessed. And if I would have ended up adopting, I would have been a mother, because that was something that I didn't realize how much I wanted. We don't realize things until someone or something takes it away. I really want this. So. Right.
Wow. I can't imagine during that time period. I'm a baby of the 80s, but I know today it's much more talked about, like issues with infertility, and it's more prominent, especially on social media, and people sharing their journeys and things like that to find people to connect with. But I imagine that this wasn't something, I mean, I know you said you found a group, but I imagine the experience was a lot different going through infertility then. Did it feel isolating? Did it feel lonely?
Absolutely. Well, the other thing with my sisters who are twins, they're a couple of years younger than me. They were already moms. And,
Mm,
when you see people around you
yeah.
having something that you want, I would say that I did go into a depression for a period
Fair.
of time. I
Yeah.
wasn't treated for it, but I felt extremely isolated. And I will have to say that the first in vitro that I went through, I'm not going to name any names, but the facility I went to, it really was not a
Mm,
positive experience. So, yeah, it's extremely isolating. And that's why I joined the Resolve group. Honestly, I'm
hmm.
not sure. I think they're still in existence.
Okay.
Resolve. It was for me, I mean, synchronistically in my journey, it appeared. I took the inspired action to actually call the author up in the facility. And, one thing led to the other. But I think that I don't know what I would have done if I didn't find that group, because I think everything would have turned out maybe differently.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on how you said you had a strong vision. You said consistency and strong vision. What was this vision for you that kept you going?
I just had developed just such a strong desire to be a mother.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize that I actually even felt that way.
Yeah.
And then I had this vision that I would have gone at that time. I remember one of the IVF centers that did the first research was in Australia.
Oh,
And yeah, that at least that I was aware of. And I think England did some early work in that as well. And I would have gone anywhere in the world,
mm,
anywhere. And it was not covered by my insurance.
of course.
I don't know nowadays. I think certainly some of the drugs are, but I just went 100% like towards every avenue that I could
Hmm.
to continue. And when I had the first in vitro, it obviously, as I shared, it really didn't work. Then I went for a second one, and in the middle of it, I just backed off. I don't really recall why, but I was just told. I tried another practitioner, a gynecologist obstetrician, and she said, "Oh, well, we're going to give you Clomid, which is a drug that produces a lot of eggs." And that was a horrible experience. And she basically said to me in the office, "You should just go get drunk. I don't know if this is going to happen for you."
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So I just want to put that out there, because anyone listening that is going through an infertility journey, be very aware and cautious of who you're speaking to and the words
Yeah.
that they say. And I
Yeah.
remember that night I went to see my mom, and I was crying, and I told her what happened. And she said, "You look at me." And she looked at me in the eyes, and she said, "You will be a mother." And I said, "But how do you know?" And she said, "I know. I know
Oh,
you're going to be a mother." And that helped a lot, because my mother was very intuitive.
oh,
But it
good. So
was a
you
mother's
believed
love.
her. Yeah.
I needed to hear that, because I was
Yeah.
devastated.
Of
Um,
course.
so you have to be very careful who you surround yourself with and the
Hmm.
influences that they have on you.
Hmm.
And, yes, sometimes, unfortunately, the outcome is not going to be what you want,
Right.
but the way it's said and the way you're treated is, you know, utmost
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. We've
Yeah.
actually touched on this on other episodes regarding your care providers, and especially like it was in context of in pregnancy, but like if it's not working for you, find someone else. Even up to like find someone else. And I'm so glad that you said that. Like you do need to be mindful of what you're
Taking
absorbing,
in. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
being centered in yourself. And if someone is saying, like, I don't think it's going to happen for you, like if you believe that it's going to happen for you, then being able to shut that down and then find someone else would be crucial. I have not
Absolutely.
struggled with infertility, and I can't imagine how painful and how trying of an experience it must be. Yeah.
And it was one of my greatest lessons and opened me up more and more to spirituality and
Yeah.
abundance and um, that there is a source guiding us.
Mhm.
And if you are open, I mean, listen, you feel what you feel, right? I did feel
Mhm.
depressed. I did feel isolated. But it gave me a great source of strength
Mhm.
that I could open myself up to trust. And even if it meant that it wasn't for my highest good that this happened for whatever reason, if a child from adoption or foster care was supposed to come into my life, although of course I wanted very much to have my own child biologically, but you know, I think it really helped open up my spirituality and my trust, and to
Mhm.
see that there are synchronicities all around us. It's whether or not we're open to them and ready,
Mhm.
or if it's coherent with us. Is it the right thing? And I knew 100% with every fiber in my body that this person in New Orleans was the right step. And I
Mhm.
just took that one small step, this doctor, and it and not only was it an incredible experience with the outcome, but the way I was treated, my husband and I, it was in Metairie, Louisiana, outside of New Orleans. Um, First of all, they gave us a suite.
Mhm.
My husband had his own bed that, the couch opened up.
Yeah.
They actually, everyone that came into that room, from dietary services to housekeeping, was lovely.
Mhm.
They actually wanted to know if I wanted to watch a video of the surgery because it was a teaching hospital and they were
Oh,
teaching and they videotaped it. I said, sure.
okay.
So I watched a little piece of it. They gave me a beautiful present when I left.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it was such an incredible experience. And, you know, uh, it was just, and then, getting pregnant, it was amazing. And I just held on to that vision and the spiritual, like the prayer and the meditation and opening myself up to source. For me, a divine source was comforting, and it just helped me get through the harder times. At that time, I really didn't have some of the modalities and tools that I use now with
Mhm.
myself, number one,
Mhm.
and with clients.
Mhm.
But the major one was the, I remember I used to listen to The Power of Positive Thinking,
Mm.
oh, Peel, and it just really helped me a lot, and not to disregard everything I was going through and pushing it to the side and painting it pink, the pig pink. it was
Yeah.
just it was just comforting to know that um, there's to trust the process, to just try and trust
Yeah.
the process and tune in and get as coherent as possible through the experience, because it gave me a lot of peace.
Mm. I love that you're like, I'm acknowledging what I'm going through and that pieces of it are ugly and dark, but shining the light to what is possible and staying tuned into that vision and that belief for yourself is so beautiful. Both
Yeah.
can exist. Yeah.
Yes.
So where did the surrender piece come in for you? Because obviously you had to take steps in order to get pregnant and you did. Where does the surrender come in?
Well, I'm not going to say it was easy, and I
Of
still,
course.
struggle with surrender. I
Of
think most
course.
human beings do,
Same.
because, every time, like with the in vitro, every time I went through the process, which was actually just once, but, um, you know, I did have consultations for microsurgery and different things. There was total disappointment and devastation.
Of course.
And then I just had to pick myself up and continue. And that drive to continue, I just think it was there. It was like this drive to be a mother, a parent, to have a child. It just was very innate. And it's the same feeling like how moms, or probably fathers as well, I can't speak for fathers, but we would sacrifice our lives to protect our children. It's like you don't even have to question that. It's this innate sense of wanting to nurture and wanting to experience that connection, which is very unique to anything else in life. I mean, it's unique beauty, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think beforehand, I've read the books, I've watched the videos, I've taken the classes, and then you get into it and it's so different, but like in all the best ways. The pieces you couldn't have imagined they're just so beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Since you touched on dads, would you mind sharing how this infertility journey impacted your marriage? What was that like, walking through that with your husband?
Yes. Well, I think my husband's almost 5 years younger than me. And I don't think he was on the same wavelength in terms of the biological clock.
Right. Yeah.
And I do think that he would have been okay if we didn't have children. It wasn't the same desire. Plus, I felt like I had something taken away from me. So I was dealing with that. So in a way that was really perfect, because I didn't have pressure from my spouse where he had all these expectations.
Yeah.
And then that was double on top of me.
I can't imagine if that was the case.
Yeah. However, I will say that it was hard on our marriage because I think he felt that I was so hyper focused on that he almost felt like left out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that he was, just a sperm donor. It really wasn't like that, but he did feel like it just became like it consumed our relationship.
Sure.
And I think he had his own feelings about fatherhood that he didn't really come to grips with because he lost his dad when he was 8.
Oh, yeah.
And he comes from 7 children.
Wow.
And he was the second from the youngest. The youngest was 4. So I think that it was triggering probably for him, without a doubt. And he had to deal with that. And I'll tell you, like, as soon as that baby came out, he was just like an instant dad in love. As a matter of fact, the nurse had to tell him to please give the baby back to the mother, because you know how they hand the baby to the dad, at first the mom, or whatever, I don't know. I was in a hospital setting, and there's like, okay, give the baby back to the mom now.
It's mom's turn.
Yes. I mean, I worked really hard for this.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So and I think that's quite normal that it becomes very stressful in a marriage.
Sure.
Kicks up a lot of dirt from past traumas and things that maybe we haven't thought about, dealt with. But all ends well, because I have to say that, like, now my kids are in their 30s, and I'm very blessed with very loving, wonderful human beings that we produced. And we can go out to dinner now even and just talk about our kids.
Aww.
We're so in love with them to the point where when my sister's like, oh my God, I can't imagine how you're going to be when you're a grandmother.
Oh my gosh. I'm sure.
But it's because, I think that when you do struggle to have a child, there's a little bit of fairy dust that comes on you.
Yeah.
You're so appreciative,
Yeah.
of what you have. And I happen to have, like I say, I'm very blessed. My husband and I, they're really good people. So
Yeah. Well, you did a good job then.
that's what
You
my
get to take
husband tells
credit.
me.
Yeah, you get to take
Yes.
credit. Oh my gosh. I can just imagine you as a grandma. Like you already seem like you would be a fantastic grandma, but just the journey you had to go through to bring your children here, and then your grandchildren will be here because you went through that journey, like how
Yeah.
special that's going to be. Like that's going to be
I
so
haven't even thought
lovely.
about that part of it, but that's a beautiful uh, sentiment. So thanks for
Yeah.
saying
Yeah. My grandmother she just turned 96. And whenever I go to visit her, she lives out of state, somebody always says in the settings that a bunch of family will show up around that time. And it's like, you did all this because of what you did. Like we're all here with, your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren. Like we're all here because of decisions that you made. And we all have our
Yes.
beautiful lives because you went first. So
Yeah, yeah,
I love that. I love
it's
that.
true.
Thank you for sharing that. Can I ask what you had said that you've got some tools that you use now and tools that you use with your clients. Can you talk a little bit about some of the tools that you use? Maybe there's something in
Sure,
there for listeners who could use a little use a little help.
sure, sure. Well, one of the major tools that I use on myself and with my clients is emotional freedom technique,
Oh,
which is
oh,
tapping.
the tapping. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yes,
That's what
and
EFT stands for. Thank you.
right, right. That's what it stands for. It's commonly referred to as tapping, and it's much more research now. I think there's over 100 research studies now, and it's used globally, even in certain areas where there's like in Ukraine, and there's a lot of trauma in emergency catastrophic situations. So it's a tool that was created in the 1970s by a psychologist, and it's in the field of thought therapy. It's using energy. So it's
Mhm.
considered a mind body tool, and there's about 9 or 10 points that you tap on. And that helps to balance the energy, the stuck energy in your body. And also, there's a part of our brain in the midbrain called the amygdala, and the amygdala is our danger response when it's in the stress area of our brain. So what it does is it decreases the cortisol levels and many other neurotransmitters that cause anxiety and stress. And it just seems to lower the amount pretty significantly. As a matter of fact, there's a research study by Dr. Feinstein, and I think that it's over 24% that the cortisol levels with 1 hour of tapping gets decreased, opposed to
Wow.
just therapy without
Oh,
tapping. So what I love about it is it works very quickly,
yeah.
and it can take the edge off. As a matter of fact, I tapped before this interview.
Oh.
I usually
Oh,
do, like before a
yeah.
presentation, or it works fantastic. But just on a daily basis, it's a great tool when you wake up, having a centering practice period, kind of waking up, doing a little journaling, doing some meditation. And some days I will do tapping as well, just checking in. What's going on with Fran today? What's up for
Mm,
me? Gee, why did I wake up with this feeling where I feel a little anxious and I'm not really aware of what's going on? Let me see let me reflect on that. Let me see what's going on with me. There's no reason why we have to walk around in, it's life. Yes, we're not going to always be steady flow, but if we can use tools to become more resilient and to be able to lower that stress response, and be able to, if we need to take some actions, or if we need more clarity in a situation, it's very hard to make decisions when you're in a stress response. And I would
yeah.
say that most of the time people are walking around in a stress response and they don't realize it. It might be low or it might be higher depending on circumstances in their life.
Yeah.
So And then I use meditation, and I do it very simply because I don't like to overwhelm my clients with having to do a long meditation. If you can do 10 minutes, and even if it's just breathing, doing, and not just because breathing is very powerful, doing some diaphragmatic breathing. You can just focus on a word, or you can use a guided imagery. There's so many different ways to do meditation. It's whatever resonates with you, but it gives your nervous system a chance to just come back down and to really reconnect to yourself. And it just feels good. It feels good to be able to do that. And through the day, if you just notice that you're having a lot of spinning in your head, you feel overwhelmed, or you feel sad or whatever, to just check in for a few minutes, because we usually just keep carrying on through our day, no matter what's going on. And that's our culture here, is very much, success, achieve, go, do more.
Yes.
That. So it's like, no, take a few minutes for yourself and check in and do some breathing,
Yeah.
So those are some tools that I use along with coaching. And I also have been trained in a specific energy healing technique. Well, I've been trained in Reiki for like 25 years. I used to teach Reiki, and I do still use it. I would say, at least once or twice a week, I use it with my meditation. But I studied a 2-year healing program called Tollera Healing. And and I've learned a whole bunch of tools and techniques to become, to really expand my energy and my clients' energy, to help them expand their energy. It's kind of more of an intuitive program where I've really explored more of my intuitive gifts. And we all have intuitive gifts, by the way.
Yes.
It's a muscle. It's just whether or not it interests you to develop. But I love it because I find that it's extremely creative.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I do this manifestation a couple of times a week. I have learned this tool called a manifestation garden. And I actually, in the energetics, I actually go to my creative garden, and I have connect with my guides and my soul, and I ask them to help me get guidance on different things. And it's beautiful because it's this place that exists in the energetics, and you created it along with, source. And I go there and I seek, guidance for, it could be for my podcast. It could be for something going on in my life, relationships. And it's this nurturing place that I feel is very holy, that I can access. So that's one of the tools that I learned. And I like to teach people, clients, how to use, because it is very practical, actually. It sounds very woo-woo, and it is, but
I'm here for it.
Yeah, but it's very practical because we are all energy, right? I mean, we know that. Einstein's proven that, and many other scientists. So it's nice to be able to play with energy.
I love all of it so much. When someone's like, well, it's a little woo-woo, I'm like, yes, bring it. I think I've had several episodes go out, and several more coming, where the topic specifically of meditation comes up, where someone's like, you got to meditate. And I'm just like, people are going to think I'm paying my listeners to say this at this point, because everyone's like, you got to meditate. Like, meditation is the key, and it's funny at this point, because I'm like, yeah, it is. As someone, relatively new to meditation the last couple of years, it's earth shattering. It has just like unlocked so much. But I love too how you said, like, taking time throughout your day to check in to see how you're feeling. Because even if you front load your day, you can forget to do that piece. And I am guilty of that as well, because you just get so busy and you've got all your responsibilities and everything else. But just pausing and being like, what is this feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Where am I feeling it? Can I release the feeling? Yeah, like you're allowed to feel your feelings, but you also don't have to hang on to them. You can release them.
Yes. And also, I just want to say it could be as simple as, depending on where you live and the environment, but just I'm very blessed to be in a beautiful environment, and I live in a lake community. But just going outside sometimes on my porch, and honestly, it sounds, crazy, but just watching the wind rustle the leaves. And it just reminds me of the beauty of this moment, the presence.
I love that.
And we can find that in so many ways. And also, music, art, exercise, that you really love, whether it be walking or running or, dancing, or all these things are coming back to ourselves and nurturing ourselves in whatever way resonates with you.
Yeah. And that's not optional, friends. We have to take care of ourselves first, so then we can take care of all those other people. That,
Absolutely.
Comes along with mothering. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that so much. I love that you said about going outside and looking at the wind. I'm in Michigan, and our summers are so beautiful. Our falls, if they decide to be fall-y, are also fantastic. But then it gets cold and it's like, but I can always find some wind to look at around here. So thank you for that gift, because I will use that even on the cold, gray days when the winter finally settles in. I find sometimes I go outside, I get really like anxious, excited energy, but it's almost too much that I can't okay, let's take a breath. Like, let's channel this into something. And I just have to go stand outside. I'm like, all right, Earth, you take the energy. Like, I'll go back inside with the pieces that I need, but I've got too much, like the buzzing. I call it buzzing.
Yeah. Well, that will ground you if you just do some, I always tell clients and, family, just take 10 diaphragmatic breaths and you'll feel like a new person, because diaphragmatic breaths, also known as, yogi breaths, they actually, anatomically and physiologically, it helps the vagus nerve, then connects to our parasympathetic system. And the parasympathetic system is all about slowing down relaxation response. And when we do the diaphragmatic breathing, it connects to the vagus nerve and it allows us to relax. And I teach this to a lot of my patients as well, to just breathe and you'll just feel so relaxed. Just give yourself like 5 minutes and it makes a big difference. We just don't take the time often. Even many of us, and I'm guilty of this at times myself, where I have the tools in my basket, but am I opening it up? And we have, to just give ourselves that grace, it's there for us.
I love that. We're all only human, but it's easy to forget the tools that you carry around with you, and it's not a 5-step thing you have to do. It's just pausing, allowing yourself to pause, I have made this reference before as well, but I used to work in a place where it was very laid back until something hit the fan. And then it was like, everyone was like, they used to say, planes will not fall out of the sky until something happened. And then people were literally acting like, jetliners were going to come crashing down. But no one would pause. No, and it was very chaotic energy. And it's like, okay, if we can just slow down for a minute, I think the solutions are going to be better. And my husband, actually, we worked together at that same company, and he so even keel, so relaxed, doesn't escalate. And it was seen as a weakness, but he's like, I'm over here solving the problems while you guys are running around like your hair's on fire, And they learned over time, what a valuable asset that was, because he was just like, okay, here's the situation. Let's look for the solution instead of escalating. And
Yeah,
it can be very easy to get caught up in that, even if you're not doing it yourself, but you're around it, you've gotta,
absolutely. And if the leadership is not aware of, um, you know, if they don't practice that sense of mindfulness, or, not aware of their nervous system and how that affects people around them, it's very difficult for it to go down the line. And a lot of people aren't aware, for whatever reason.
yeah.
It's just not in our society and culture. It's much better than it was 25, 30 years ago, but it certainly's got a long way to go in terms of what we value.
Yeah.
It's still, the values often are, not focused on things that actually make us happy.
100%. Like anyone who like doesn't work for themselves and works for somebody else is probably like, yep,
Yeah,
yep, absolutely. I totally feel that. I like to ask everyone the same questions. So first, what didn't you expect motherhood to change or shake up in you?
Because I had such a rocky start to being a mom, I just didn't really think so much about motherhood until it was kind of taken away from me.
Yeah.
So, at least it appeared that way. So, I think that I just really dove into the desire so strongly. And then, I was a pediatric nurse
Mm,
for a couple of years, and I used to take care of infants that were sick.
mm,
So when I actually had a child, and being that I was 35, I was not like 21,
yeah.
I had lived a little bit of life at that point.
Right.
I think I was pretty comfortable with taking care of an infant. Of course, all moms are, and dads are nervous wrecks,
Yeah.
bringing them home. But I think I had a little bit of an advantage that I had been around infants that were critically ill at
Yeah.
times. Um, so I don't know if that answers the question, but I think
That's okay.
yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
natural kind of evolution that happened.
Yeah. I love that. That you're the first one to answer in that way, but I welcome it. I think so many people are like, I thought it was gonna be easy and it wasn't easy. And you're like, no, no, no. Like I had an idea. And I think your journey definitely played into
Yes,
that experience for sure.
yes.
If you could give one piece of advice to another mother at any phase in motherhood, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this question. I remember when my kids were young, it was a lot of running around, which I'm sorry, most moms have the bulk of the responsibility.
Yeah.
Um, and it was anxiety producing to
Hmm.
have to fit so much in a schedule. And I remember consciously thinking, I am not going to overschedule my kids. And yes, I encouraged them to do certain sports and things, but I didn't do it out of this feeling like, oh my God, my kids are going to miss out on something and they're not going to be enough, or they're not going to have enough, or I'm not going to be enough. And I think that because I started to use a lot of my spirituality, at that time I was also studying Buddhism, and I would be chanting a lot, and I had an altar in my house, and my kids were around that. I just wanted to be more present.
Mm.
And I think it's very challenging when you're a young mom or an older mom when you have younger kids, because there's
Yeah.
so much thrown at you. But I think to try and remember to just slow down a little bit and use those tools,
Hmm.
appreciate what you have, because it's not a race getting somewhere. It's really like now, I mean, I wish I had one day when my kids were like 2 or 3 years old,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And so I would say the presence, holding on to to the beautiful moments that you have with your children. And each phase is unique onto itself of their childhood, and then their teenage years, and then their adulthood. And the other thing I would say is it's very easy to throw our expectations onto our children, and we want them to be, yes, of course, we want them to be independent and happy and have good self-esteem. But for me, like, I was very conscious that I was throwing my own expectations onto my kids. So I would say to be reflective and do your own work.
So good.
Not easy, but when you have expectations of your kid, if you have more than one kid, I mean, they're always opposites, right? They're all very different.
Yep.
One's easy in school, one's, harder in school, and they're individual souls. So they're going to be very different. But to do your own work, and when you're trying to throw, all these expectations on your kid, what is really going on with you? What fears do you really have? What are you trying to live through your child that maybe you didn't have? Or what societal expectations and the media and everything else that says success is, I have one child who was very different. He was more of a free spirit and an artist. And I was super proud of that because I loved the fact that he was creative. And I had to really learn to, just let that be okay. He's going to be on his own journey. And he's so happy doing his thing now. And he's like, I admire him so much because he's so true to his own, beat. Yeah. And my other child is extremely self-motivated, very organized. And, and she has used all these gifts for her career and her success. So, they find their way to trust that if you love them, and you're not going to be perfect and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but when you make a mistake and you feel that you need to have a conversation with your child, apologize to them. Yeah. And tell them, I didn't handle that well. I'm sorry. Yeah. Because we are going to make mistakes. We're human. Yeah. So those are the three areas that, I feel I've learned, and I'm continuing to learn. I really am. Yeah. I am. As my kids now are in their early 30s, so they're really like my friends now. Yeah.
I love all of that so much. And there is a lot of work, a lot of things that come up when you have kids. You're like, why is this particular thing triggering me? And why do I feel this way about that? And I love that you let your son just kind of be who he is, because I'm at the age now where my peers, we've been out of college long enough. We've been in the career force long enough. And a lot of people are like, wait a minute. I thought I wanted this. This is not what I want. This is what I went to college for. This is what I've been working towards. Now I have a certain status or whatever. And am I that happy? So just letting them walk that path to begin with is so powerful, because if you go towards all the shiny things and the nice titles and the nice salary and all the shiny objects, it's not about the pile of stuff. So if you're, unhappy on the inside, just giving them the space to explore that. And I give you so much credit too, because I know, like, my dad, for example, didn't go to college, and that's all he wanted for me was to go to college. Like, go to college. Like, I remember when I was 5, he was like, you're going to college. I'm like, I don't even know what that is, Dad. He's like, you're going to college, and he was so proud that he put me through college, that I graduated from college. It was a huge point of pride for him. And I don't regret going to college at all. I went to be a teacher, so it made sense. But was it more for him that I went, or was it more for me? And I think a lot of people who have kids in their 30s, like it is almost like a status, like check, my kid went to college. I got them through college.
Yes.
And it's not the right path for everybody.
Yes,
Yeah.
it certainly isn't. And although my son did go to college and he actually did quite well, but the
Yeah.
reason why is because he studied art and that's what
Yeah.
his passion was.
Yeah.
And I think that I've had conversations with him and he's like, you have no idea how it is out there for other uh people that I know whose parents were not supportive
Yeah.
and try to mold them into, whatever made them feel good and safe and secure,
Yeah.
but it wasn't what their child wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know,
It resonates. I was told not to confuse hobbies with career choices. So I give you so much credit for, and I know that's, maybe you brought up some feelings for you too, because we want security. We want to feel safe. We want that for our children. And like, ooh, is that going to lead to security and safety
exactly.
for them? I'm sure it's,
Oh, sure. Oh, no, this all comes from this feeling of not, feeling safe
yeah.
and this fear that your child isn't going to be safe in the world. It's
Mhm.
coming from a place of love,
Yeah.
but we have to look at our own safety.
Yeah.
And when we look at our own safety and we help ourselves become, our nervous system to calm down a little bit and get that centeredness, then it goes away. This fear, it evaporates, at least in that moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then maybe we can make, better choices in how we relate to our kids.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you've been through it. And, some of the listeners, I don't really know actually what our base is. I feel like we have a little bit of a range. But I know there are parents that have younger kids like I do. And it's like to hear this and to see that someone has done it successfully and their child is good and, they're doing great. Like it's really inspirational to encourage your kids. I think we're more open to it in this day and age.
Right.
Largely, not everybody, but I think collectively we're more open to kind of honoring our child's interests. So we can do that and it can be okay. I love
Yes.
that.
And they have to figure it out for themselves. They
Yeah.
really do. We're really there to support them. But honestly, everybody has to go through on their own path. And
Yeah.
it's not always easy when you see, your child go through the difficult times. Of course not. But, knowing that this too shall pass, and
Yeah.
them knowing that they have support as they go through it, and they're going to come out the other side and they're going to, God willing, and they're going to benefit from it, right? From the
Yeah.
contrast, right? Because that's how we
Yeah.
learn. We learn from the
Absolutely.
contrasts.
Yeah, you're right. It would be no fun without it, right? Even though some
Yes.
pieces are a little eek less than desirable. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
so right. You're so right. I love all this so much. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us. Where can everybody find you? What offers do you have to share with the world?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Well, I just launched a podcast. It's on Apple and Spotify. It's called It's Messy, but It's So Good.
Oh, it's so perfect. I love that. Awesome.
Yes, it pertains to just about every area.
Right? Oh my gosh. I love that.
So
Awesome.
what it's
Awesome.
really focused on is people's passion journey and
Mm,
how they, like, for instance, your passion for really exploring all this about moms and parenting, and what your journey has been with your passion. Where did it come from? Where are you now? And then how do you deal with the challenges that come up, the
mm,
contrast? And then it's an inspiring podcast. It helps people who, have passion and are looking for support or are celebrating their passion or just like to listen to inspired stories on passion. So,
I love that. It sounds so
yeah,
good. We'll put that link
yeah.
in there for sure. Yeah.
And then as a gift, I have a journal that I created called the Passion Reflection Journal. And you can subscribe to my email list and you can obtain the journal as a gift.
Awesome.
And that's in my Instagram also at Fran Medina Coaching.
Awesome. We'll make sure we have all of this in the show notes for the listeners. And we love a freebie.
Yes, a freebie. And it's really, it's really good for any stage of the journey. Like if you're starting out, exploring what you want to do in terms of your livelihood. If you're in middle age and you're feeling like you need to open up or make a shift, or if you're in retirement or close to retirement, or just that part of your life, maybe you're not retired, where you just feel like something else is calling you and you just want to explore that. So, and then also I have a website. Everything's very easy, www.franmedinacoaching.com.
Perfect. I love the passion. I love that piece because I know as someone, like, I left teaching, which was a very hard choice. And I was like, now what? And I grappled with that for years. Even once I'd gotten into another job and worked there for many years, I was still like, but what do I do now? And like, I don't even know what I like anymore. And like, is everything a lie? Like, did I ever like what I was doing? It can be very paralyzing when you finally have the space to examine, like, what do you actually want? That sounds great.
So this gives you a chance to take a breath with that. And, I know, like in my first podcast, I talked a lot about my journey. I had so many passions. And I knew that I loved being a nurse, but the system I was in was just not working for what my passions were.
Yeah.
So, my path and my exploration of all my passions, I say, go out and explore all your passions. I mean, it's incredible what you can do to combine things that you're interested in. But we don't often give ourselves permission because, again, our nervous system is telling us, and our brain, no, you have to do it this way and it has to be perfect and all of that. Yeah. And no, it doesn't have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, you'll never start anything if you stay stuck in that mindset. So calming yourself down a little bit to be able to move forward. Is very, very, very helpful.
I love that you said permission. That was exactly the word I was thinking. Like, give yourself permission to start. And I think we're all, I don't want to say all, I think collectively our society is so outcome driven that it's really hard to start if you're like, well, where's it going to go? I don't know how that would go anywhere, and it's like, it doesn't even have to go anywhere. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
But yes. I love that. This has been so wonderful. Thank you for sharing your journey, your vulnerability on infertility. I know it is something that women experience, but I still don't think there's enough conversation surrounding it. So I appreciate you sharing that and just all the juicy morsels that you've picked up along the way. So good.
Thank you so much. It's very, that's why I love podcasting too, because I feel like when people tell their story, it really, not only do you get to know them in a different way as the host, but it gives people more clarity really on, what has this all meant to me personally. And although I've thought about it a million times, written about it, talked about it, I'm at a different place in my life right now. Right. Yeah. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that.
It's my pleasure. And this has been such a gift. Speaking of not knowing where things were going, this was never on my plan. I had no idea, like the podcast thing was like never a thing. So but it's been such a gift with all the women wanting to raise their hand and share their journeys. And it has been, I walk away from every conversation with something that I needed to hear that I didn't know I needed to hear. So thank you.
Oh, sure.
This has been a lot of fun, Fran. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Take care.
Fran, thank you so much for sharing all of that goodness. If you are interested in working with Fran, she's offering the Realign and Recharge one-to-one coaching special package of 3 sessions. If you are ready to experience rapid transformation, this is for you. And Fran's awesome. I've got to know her, as I mentioned, but she's also led me through an EFT session, and it was really fantastic. So I know you'll love her. All of her links, including the link to this package, are in the show notes. But if that package sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to scurry on over to Instagram, because she does offer a coupon code for a discount on that offer. For any mamas to be, in addition to the freebies that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, the Mat Leave Social is coming in January. Enrollment is open if you would like to be part of that program. It's a virtual community for women on maternity leave to connect, engage with other women in a similar phase of life, and to learn from each other and from guest experts who will also join us in the community. There are weekly connection calls, opportunities, again, to learn from guest speakers, and a directory available for networking opportunities. The link is in the show notes. And also, if you're looking for some one-on-one attention, the one-to-one maternity leave mentorship is also available. It's a month-to-month opt-in. Get as much support as you need. Start and stop whenever you like. All of those details are in the show notes. If you love the podcast, it would mean so much if you would subscribe and leave a 5-star review. And please share it with your friends. Come hang out with me on socials at Having a Mom Moment on Instagram or on Facebook. And if there's something you'd like to hear about on a future episode, shoot me a message on either platform, or you can shoot me an email at havingamamoment@gmail.com. In case someone has told you today, you are amazing, you are loved, and I am so proud of the beautiful human that you are. Take care of yourself.